Have you noticed that much of what we see in the sales world today is antisocial? Pitch slaps, false compliments, inauthenticity, and sometimes outright disinformation? Welcome to the All Selling is Social podcast, where we look at ways that we can be social in our selling efforts, no matter how we're reaching out. Each week, we talk to top sales leaders and trainers to learn what's working for them, how we can learn to talk with people, not talk at them. Join your host, Bill McCormick, and let's develop a sales game that feels as good as it works. Let's get social.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this episode of All Selling is Social. But wait a minute, we're going to put a slash through the selling, and we're going to call this episode All Marketing is Social. And the reason is I'm joined by my good friend Dillon Smith, and Dillon is the lead and founder of CMO Church, which is a fractional CMO agency that's devoted to helping churches and ministries reach more people through better marketing. So Dillon, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Man, my friend, it's so good to see you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and so let's put a stopper in here and just really quick, what is a fractional CMO?
Yeah, so essentially it's a lot of organizations, especially in the church world, aren't necessarily big enough to hire like a full-on CMO, chief marketing officer, person who can lead the marketing on all things. Like a lot of times they just need something a little less. So a fractional CMO is actually this idea that's gaining a lot of popularity the last couple of years, where rather than hire one person, pay them multiple six figures to do the thing for like to come onto your team or whatever, you hire someone for 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week, and they just do like they give you all of their expertise, all of their leadership, and all of their marketing strategy. But then you hire out the marketing execution to someone else, maybe an entry-level employee or other ways to get the marketing done with AI and stuff like that these days. And you let this fractional CMO do the leadership and strategy and let those other people do the marketing execution. So that's kind of the model, you could say.
Awesome. All right, great. So I understand it better. So my audience doesn't do a lot. Well, I shouldn't say they do a lot of their own marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't talk a lot about marketing on my show. So I'm glad to have you in. But tell me, how did you get started in this marketing world? I mean, you look like you're about 15 years old, except for the facial hair. But how did you get started in marketing?
Yeah, so 8 years ago, I was in college for a pastoral ministry degree, and this guy came and spoke at my college, and his name was Kerry Newhoff. He's been a good friend of mine for 8 years now. He's got a big podcast and a blog and stuff like that for leadership. And I asked a couple really good questions, and I stuck out in his mind. A year later, he was hiring for an executive assistant. And I just at the time was feeling God prompt me to like reach out and say, hey, I would love to work for you. I didn't know he was looking for a new EA. I just like felt that prompting. So, things lined up, worked out. I ended up joining his team, was a terrible EA for a year. And then he moved me into the content marketing lane of the company for the podcast and the blog. And they had an email list of about 50,000 people when I started. So he had me kind of running all that, and I just trial by fire for 3 years there, and it was just crazy. Then went to Life Church, and that's where you and I met. And for the last 4 years, we've kind of been rocking the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast and Life Church Open Network. So that's been fun. Just stepped off and am doing my own thing now. So that's
And that's exciting. That's really, really exciting. I love that story because, Jim Collins in Good Great, it's important to have the right people on the bus,
Yeah.
but what's more important is to have the right people in the right seats on the bus. And so sounds like maybe you weren't in the right seat,
Yeah.
and Carrie saw that and moved you. So that's a great thing. And yeah, and so we've been working together for so like 3 years. We've been helping the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast LinkedIn page grow, and you've been helping the whole thing grow. But my expertise there is in the LinkedIn side of things, and that's been great. Been seeing you really take off, and I was so excited to see you launch your own company and jump into the entrepreneurial world and hear that you're doing so great. And so we're going to talk about marketing. And so on this show, I talk a lot about the social side of selling, and not meaning social media, but just meaning being social as
Yeah.
opposed to being antisocial. And so we're going to talk about that in marketing because the two go hand in hand.
Totally.
Usually the salespeople I know that are being antisocial, they're being that way because they're being given antisocial marketing stuff from their marketing department, or they're using it the wrong way. And we're going to talk about that. But first, the curveball question, which I told you in the green room right before we started, and you kind of went, oh, so I'm interested to hear. Define marketing for us, because like I said, my audience, they're salespeople, and so marketing to them is a concept, but I don't think they quite understand what it is. So, what is marketing to Dillon Smith?
Yeah, I'll borrow from Alex Hermosi on this one, who has a massive business audience, but he spends the first 4 hours of every day doing one of the core four. And I'll give him credit. He's got a book called $100 Million Leads that is excellent. Like, I read it 3 times last year, helped me build my business. Incredible book. Um, Inside, he outlines the core four ways that you can market. And those core four things is warm outreach, cold outreach, running paid ads, or posting free content. So when I define marketing, it's just doing one of those core four things to get the word out about your business or about your offer or about your nonprofit or whatever. So it's doing one of those four things and like sharing about it. So that's probably the best definition I can come up with.
All right, so I love that. So the first two things you mentioned, cold outreach, warm outreach,
Yeah,
that's prospecting for salespeople.
totally.
And so let's talk about that in terms of the social aspect.
Mhm.
And when you're working with a church or a company and you're talking about doing a cold outreach, so what to you is the difference between cold outreach campaign and a warm outreach campaign?
Yeah. So it's just the temperature of your relationship. So, if you like Alex teaches that you go through your contact list in your phone, your Facebook friends, your LinkedIn contacts, everyone who knows you. And then those are your warm contacts. They're people who you already have permission to reach out to, and they'll probably respond. Cold outreach would be new people. So that's like getting new connections on LinkedIn. That's friending new leaders on Facebook, or you can buy email lists too. Although I haven't done that personally myself. But like cold would be people that you don't have permission to reach out to yet. Warm would be like people who you do, and that's probably the best definition I can give.
Okay.
I've found that warm outreach, you should always lead with warm outreach. Do that first, especially if like you've got people in your audience who are starting a business or just starting a new offer. Like reach out to warm audiences first. Nail the messaging, because cold outreach is a whole lot harder to get right than warm
Sure,
outreach, and it takes
sure.
significantly more volume. So
Yeah. And I think what happens, and I'm coming specifically from a LinkedIn standpoint because that's where I spend all my time, although I see it in my email inbox, but I ignore that a lot more just because of where I live in terms of business. What I think a lot of folks think is warm outreach is actually cold outreach, just
mm,
because of the way, because they think that just because they're connected to someone, that makes that person a warm lead.
no.
But it really doesn't. So tell me, in the marketing world, as we talk about this social and anti-social, what are
Mm,
some of the things you see out there, whether cold or warm outreach?
yeah.
What are some of the things you're seeing people do that are anti-social?
Mm. Can we talk about the broader trend of this first to kind of
I'd
give some
love to.
context?
Yeah.
So AI is obviously changing everything, right? Like none of the rules are the same as they were 5 years ago. And as we look ahead, like AI is going to change everything. One of those changes that's been happening even before AI, but AI is accelerating it, is the shift from the value of offers being in the content to now the value is in the community, the access, and the relationship that you get as a part of those offers.
Mhm.
For example, so Carrie, who I work with now as a part of CMO Church, He built this massive platform from 2005 to 2020 of massive email list because of his podcast and his blogs. And that was content. And people found that incredibly helpful. But they didn't really start selling access to Carrie besides like hiring him to speak or like stuff like that. They didn't start selling access to Carrie until 2020. And now, like that is most of their business is the Art of Leadership Academy, where you get closer access to Carrie. So in marketing, if you're posting content and you're not connecting with people, like if you're making 1,000 LinkedIn posts but you make 0 comments, that's antisocial. Like if you make 1,000 ads and run them, but then you're not like doing the relational part on the back end, that's antisocial. So that's like the big meta trend is like content is no longer the value. It's going to be community and it's going to be access moving
Mm.
forwards.
All right. So that's something I hadn't even thought of. So
Yeah.
content is so explain to me, because people are like, but I have to create content, right?
Totally.
So now you're using the content and you're driving towards a community then?
Yeah. I think what people are going to pay for is going to change. So like people will still expect the freemium model. They'll still expect free content from Carrie. And Carrie's still doing his podcast. He's kind of pivoted his blog to YouTube, but he's still doing those, like he's still communicating ideas out into the world. It's just they're no longer scarce and they've lost their value because people can ask for the same blog post from ChatGPT and it'll give it to them. It's sometimes better than Carrie writes it, and with less controversial opinions than what Carrie has. Uh,
And maybe right and maybe wrong, but that's a whole other issue that we could,
totally. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, one thing that scares me about AI is that people are like using it as their life coach, their relationship coach, their spiritual advisor. Like people don't really care whether ChatGPT is right or not. They're just listening to it. And that is
Mm.
not a good thing. But
Yeah.
it is unfortunately true. So because people just assume, oh, like I think they trust it like they trust Google. And yeah, unfortunately, like Google doesn't hallucinate like ChatGPT does, but people still trust it like that. So that's concerning.
Yeah. Well, my friend Mark Hunter, when he was on the show a couple episodes back, he calls AI average intelligence
Mm,
because because it's reaching out in the internet and finding everything and bringing you the average of all of those things.
yes.
And the problem, of course, is that it can't it's it's going to give you the information whether it's correct or not. And
Yes.
and that's why, especially with salespeople who don't have a lot of time to create content, and I tell them AI actually increases the time it takes to create content, because if you've used that to create a post, now you have to go back and check all of that. Whatever was cited, you have to check. You have to make sure that it's, and I don't know what the status now. I bet about a year or 18 months ago, ChatGPT was through indexing Google up to about 2018. I
Mhm.
don't know where they're at now in terms
They're-
of that.
yeah,
But
they're plummeting.
like
Yeah.
I was telling people, like, so that's before COVID. So if your industry was affected by COVID and you're using ChatGPT to do research stuff, it's probably out of date. So let's talk about AI. How are you seeing AI change marketing for the better? And let's start with how is it changing marketing for the worse?
Uh, so in the fractional CMO world, which is new to you and probably a lot of your audience, we have a saying that the marketing department is shrinking from the bottom up.
Mm,
So like the people on the bottom rung of the ladder, like the copywriter, like the entry level copywriter, the entry level video editor, the entry level like content person, those are all being they're no longer jobs. They're functions for their boss to go into ChatGPT and ask for.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and uh, and with good prompt engineering and some basic like AI automation, you can really replace 90% of someone's job with that, and that is not a good thing
no.
because you don't get to be one of these higher level marketers without spending years on the entry level. Like,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
what we're going to have 5 years from now is we're going to have a bunch of people with experience who did it, And then we're going to have a bunch of people that didn't get a chance to learn. And so that trend is concerning. And I don't love that, unfortunately. So
Mm,
yeah, that's the
okay.
negative.
That's the bad. So let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
benefits of AI in marketing.
Yeah, I think so. One of the strategies that you and I used with Craig's brand was LinkedIn newsletters. And what I found really valuable is that the output that AI gives you is often equivalent, like the quality of it is equivalent to the inputs that you give it. So, like what I found is that if I took the transcript from one of Craig's GLS talks, for example,
Mm,
and I upload that transcript into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you take this core idea from this talk and make a blog post out of it, I had almost zero changes because
mm,
Craig had already done the hard work of creating
right.
the content. It just, shrunk it down.
Hmm.
So that it's really good at that. Like if you can give it a ton, it can give you a back a lot just in a repurposed way. So that's a good way to maximize it. A way that your like salespeople could use this in the audience is if you give a really good explanation on a call for something, take the transcript from that call, put it into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you put this into a framework that I can
Hmm.
teach? Or you can have an AI video editing software like edit the video into just being a teaching of that. So
Yeah.
that'd be a positive that I'm seeing.
Yeah. I was pretty anti AI for quite a while until I started using it and started to talk to people who are smarter than me, which is that's how we get better.
Yeah.
And people like you and I learned some things and recently I had someone on the show and they were talking about how he was saying like, oh yeah, last year I was lazy. He said I went away on vacation for a while and what I did is before I went away I took some of my old blogs
Mhm.
and I put him into he didn't use ChatGPT, he used another version. And he said I put it and I asked it to rewrite it in my voice and give me 3 points. And he got 5 new blogs.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I've started going back and repurposing some of my stuff.
Mhm.
I'll take the transcript of this interview that we do, and I'll
Yeah.
throw that into Gemini, and I'll ask for a title, and I'll ask for a description, and I'll
Mhm.
ask for 3 posts on it, and it's all our words, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference. If you can give it, as you said, if you can give the right information, it's going
Yeah.
to give you a better product and an
100.
easier product.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
you know, what I worry about and what I always warn salespeople about is just don't go there and have it create the content for you because
Yeah.
that's not going to work. So if I'm a business owner, which I am, and I'm on a
Mhm.
budget,
Yeah.
what are some of the AI tools that you recommend that we invest in? So ChatGPT, I know there's a free version, but then there's a paid version also.
Yeah, they have two different paid tiers. Well, technically
Okay.
three. So for individuals, there's the $20 a month pro tier, which I think is a no-brainer for anyone. You should have it
Mhm.
because you can create custom GPTs, which for me, for my agency, I have a custom GPT for each one of my clients, and I share that
Okay.
with them as like a deliverable, but it's also something
Hmm.
that I use. So like
Hmm.
for Red Letter Challenge, I can say, hey, can you write a blog post in Red Letter Challenge's voice or whatever? And like that's very helpful for that. And custom GPTs are a great tool on that front too, which if your audience hasn't explored, they should. So custom GPTs. You also the next tier with ChatGPT is the team tier, which is $30 a month per team member, and that's for businesses. I actually have that for me and my VA. We
Hmm.
each use it and we use the heck out of that. One practical use of ChatGPT that I just had. I had a deliverable this last month where I needed to deliver like an 80-page workbook to Carrie for his upcoming course on preaching that they're about to release. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a long workbook. And to
Yeah,
write
that's a
that, that
lot
would
of
have
work.
been, dozens and dozens of hours of writing.
Sure.
Or I asked my VA, Angela, I said, hey, could you take all of the videos from this course, transcribe them, upload them into ChatGPT, have it write the workbook sections and reflection questions from it, and then upload
Hmm.
it into a document. So I didn't have to do any of that work. She did all of that. And then I just had to go through and for, 5 to 10 hours, go through all of those workbook like pages and edit them like and tweak them as I was watching the videos. And so
Hmm.
that made it like that turned what would have been a 60-hour task into a 10-hour task plus 20 hours for my VA, who is significantly cheaper than my time. So like that's
Right. Right.
so
Great.
there's that. And then there is a $200 tier with ChatGPT as well, but I mean, unless you're a
Yeah.
power user, you don't need that.
Right. That's probably like enterprise.
Yeah.
So that's ChatGPT.
Yep.
What about like email and video?
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the script too. I want to make sure we touch on that.
Yeah, Descript would be my recommendation for video.
Okay.
It's like AI overlord tool is pretty good. I mean, it's getting better. It's still
Hmm.
got some room to grow. I still hire an editor, and it's actually my VA. She did like graphic design and video editing for years for the previous
Hmm.
company she worked for. So I still pay for that. But so the one tool that I would heavily recommend everybody check out is well, let me add some context. One, website development is one of the most overpriced things on the planet, and people are going to have some opinions about this. Uh,
Hmm.
but like, you do not need to drop $10,000 on a new website anymore. So like the site that you were looking at before we hopped on, CMO Church, that website that I built, I talked to a tool called Replit for 2 hours on a Monday night and said, "Hey, I need a website that looks like this and does
Hmm.
this." And Replit, its agentic AI platform, went and built the website for me. And I gave it my social media links, I gave it my Calendly booking link, and it built it all out for me.
Dropped it all in. And
Yes.
and that when I said the script, I meant Replit. They sound
Oh,
alike. So that's
oh
what I
yes.
wanted to make sure we said. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I wish a year ago that I knew about that.
Well, it wasn't as good a year ago. So like
Yeah.
it's always evolving, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, anybody who's like a business owner looking to update your website or whatever, do not pay thousands of dollars. Like
Hmm.
there are tools if you need a simple website, like there are tools that can do it. I pay $25 a month for Replit, and that is like that saves me like so much money and it works. So
And do they take you through the connection through your domain and that kind of thing?
Uh, they do have a tool that makes it pretty easy to do.
Okay. All right.
Mine actually isn't like perfect yet on that
Yeah.
front, but I do have a friend who just set it up. So I
Okay. All right.
yeah, I just set
Good.
up. I have my domain in GoDaddy. And I just set up a redirect. So like
Yeah.
when you type in CMO.church, it takes you to.
It goes to there. All right, great. And I'll just throw in so for video, so I do a lot of video work. So I use something called Kapwing, Kapwing. I used to call it Capwing, and then I heard them pronounce it, and it's like a ricochet, like Kapwing. Like that's how they say it. But
Okay.
it's I think I pay, I'm looking at my thing over here. I think I pay somewhere around $40 a month,
Okay.
and it allows me unlimited. It's very similar to Camtasia, and I pull a video in and I'm able to do all of, edit it all the ways. But what's the great thing I love about it is I'll take this video, I'll
Mhm.
put it in and I'll repurpose it and I'll give 5 different topics. Think of
Mhm.
hashtags.
Yeah.
And I'll say I want 10 clips. I want them to be between 45 seconds and 90 seconds on
Mhm.
these 5 topics, and it'll go through and it'll give me 5 clips of you and I talking about these different things with trans with subtitles, and it takes probably about 15 or 20 minutes, but I'm not having to go through everything and cut and paste. It does it all for me.
Wow.
And for me, and they have a yearly, just like all these things, there's a yearly subscription, there's a monthly. I was talking to a video person who said, listen, it changes so much. You don't want to get stuck in a 1 year contract.
Totally.
While it costs more to go month to month, you want to be able to switch and go to other things that are maybe serve you better.
Mhm.
I know with live streaming for a while. It was crazy between StreamYard and Restream, and StreamYard had a really great deal a couple of years ago for like $9.99 a month for the Black Friday sale. And what happened was a year later, everybody got bumped up to like $49.99 a month, which is crazy. So anyway, that's great. So any other things, if I'm a business owner
Mhm.
in my marketing that I need, forget AI, let's just talk about tools. What do I need that's like a must have?
Yeah. I'm surprised at how many organizations and businesses I talk to that they just are completely unaware of their email list. They have it, but they don't touch it. Like maybe they have a customer list sitting there that like they've sold to or whatever. And a lot of them end up having like a couple thousand people in that email list. And what I've found is that email marketing is by far one of the highest ROI marketing channels that you can have, like it,
Hmm,
without question. A lot of people argue that it's like the only channel that you can get a 36 to 1 dollars per like dollar in for $36 out channels. The
hmm.
problem is you have to get the emails. So, but
Right,
if you
right.
have an email list laying around, it is absolutely worth your time to leverage that, like be emailing them on a regular basis, reach out to them, have a consistent communication strategy, and it does not need to be complex. We've done extensive testing. The closer you can make it look like a Gmail email from like a friend, the
Mm,
better. So like make your emails text only, don't design them like and just keep it simple and send once
mm.
a week. That is the easiest low-hanging fruit that I've seen so many businesses not use. Um,
So so that's something I've learned. Like I try to make mine look fancy.
yeah.
And I mean, I've gotten returns from my email list. I have a very large email list, but it's not engaged at all.
Yeah.
However, I'm working on that. But I mean, just last October, I sent an email out and it got me a training gig just because one person read it, one person responded and said, "Hey, we need to talk." And 3 months later, I'm doing training for a company. And so I believe that wholeheartedly, but didn't realize the 36 to 1. I mean, so
Yeah.
so that's so what so there's MailChimp, there's all kinds. Is there one that you recommend overall?
I like Kit. I think kit.com, ConvertKit, it's pretty great. None of them are perfect. Obviously, I've got clients in MailChimp, clients in Kit, clients in Beehive. I think Beehive is the fastest growing right now because they're built like an AI, like a startup, not like a, long-term company.
Mhm.
But where like Kit is like a big monolith that's just growing and like staying consistent. So Beehive is great. Uh, yeah, so any one of those three are awesome, and I recommend them. There are other ones like for specific use cases, like
Hmm.
if you have an app and you have 80,000 people on an email list, like there are volume ones that are better than the Kit for that, I
Right,
guess.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I use Kajabi, and it's not just an email because I have courses
yeah,
I sell, and that's all part of that. So what
totally.
we'll do is I'll put this information into the show notes so folks have it. But wow, I can't believe I'm looking at the timer and I started it late and we're already over time, but that's okay. Overtime is always a great thing.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up.
Hmm.
So first of all, thank you. I learned a lot on this. I can't wait to go back through the transcript and take some notes on this. But if folks want more of Dillon Smith, more of CMO Church, how do we get more of you?
Yeah, I mean, so that URL, CMO.church, works to get to my website. There's a booking link on there if people want to grab some time on my calendar. It won't just be a sales pitch. Like I try to just be relational and friendly. And I like if you just have marketing questions and you're like, hey, I have no clue what I'm doing here. What would you do? Like,
Mm.
just grab some time. I'm glad to chat. And then yeah, I mean, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on all the places. Yeah, I love LinkedIn and I think it's a lot of fun. So if people want to come connect there, that'd be a blast.
Fantastic. And we'll throw the links to those social platforms in the show notes also. So hey, thank you so much for being on the very first edition of All Marketing is Social. We're gonna kind of continue this for probably through August for a couple more episodes. I'm gonna have my wife on talking about physical marketing because she does she does promotional products. We're gonna talk about how we started our business. That's gonna be a fun conversation. But this was a great conversation. I learned so much. And so, Dillon, thank you so much for being on the show. We greatly, greatly appreciate you.
Hey, thank you. It was fun.
All right, and thanks everyone for watching. And go check Dillon out, CMO.Church, and go find him on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, LinkedIn. And as you're out this week, don't forget, be social. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You can be loser, set me